Sports Bash brought to you by Prop Swap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Check them out online at PropSwap.com. My guys over at Prop Swap, check them out. Great tickets on the Heat right now. They sold a ticket last night on the Heat for like $9,000, I think. Some crazy story regarding the Heat because they were, at the beginning of the year, you could get the Heat at like 200-1 to win the NBA championship. How'd they get here and how do they match up? Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM, NBA radio, longtime NBA writer. He joins us now. We'll look at the Sixers coaching search and get his opinion on that as well. But first, let's look at the NBA Finals. LeBron for the 10th time. Jimmy Butler's there for the first time. And I guess all the Sixer fans are crying in their milk right now because here's Jimmy Butler. Let me ask you, if this isn't in the bubble, do you think the Heat are here?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, look, they're a good team. They were on a pace to win about 49 or 50 games. You mean to tell me that Tyler Hero's going to go crazy shooting threes on the road in Boston or on the road in Milwaukee? And, that's one of these things about this year, Mike, and you've seen it in these playoffs, is that without travel, it levels the playing field. You don't have to go into a visiting arena where you're going to get yelled at and screamed at. Nobody went into Philadelphia. Nobody's going into the Boston Garden and all these tough places to play historically. And usually young guys become, unless they're exceptional players, they're going to have really rough moments. So I don't know if Miami would be there. But they were a perfect team for the bubble. It's all business with them. They survived better than a lot of other teams. You heard, stories about how the Clippers didn't want to be there. Paul George complained about, manic depression and bouts with that. So I would say probably not in terms of Miami, but it's all come together for them great. Bam Adebayo's emerged. They've got an unbelievable play out of Goran Dragic. Jimmy Butler's been, unfortunately for Philly fans. I'll say this. I don't think Jimmy Butler turned the six. I think Jimmy Butler's deal it wasn't like the Sixers didn't want him. I don't think he wanted the Sixers. I don't think he wanted to deal with Brett Brown or whoever was going to be the coach, and I don't think he's a believer in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in terms of guys who could get him, help. He could help win a championship. You could even argue, does Jimmy Butler know how to win a championship? He hasn't done that yet. And I think he just looked at Miami as this is a perfect spot. No nonsense. Pat Riley runs a tight ship. We all know about the Heat culture. So I don't think it's a deal where the Sixers, blew it. I think he didn't want any part of them anymore.
Yeah, and we said this before. I mean, people are saying, look, the Heat didn't – and look, people don't like what the Sixers did. I get it. But, the Heat didn't. I said, well, the Heat and the Sixers are different. I mean, they can sign free agents. The Sixers are not drawing free agents to Philadelphia. So the Heat they don't have to do what the Sixers and other teams are trying to do. Not every team can build the same way, and the Heat are fortunate that they can draw free agents to Miami. Philly, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Indiana, Oklahoma, yada, yada. They can't do it that way.
Right, and part of it has to do with the whole, tax thing down there in Florida, but also a lot of it has to do with a guy like Jimmy Butler looks at, what, do I have to deal with knuckleheads? Miami, they don't have knuckleheads. Now, I'll say this. It's not like Pat Riley didn't have his share of bad signings. Hassan Whiteside. Look at Deion Waiters. They've had other guys who Pat Riley missed out on, and Jimmy Butler wouldn't want to play with them, but this is a very good mix for him. It's all business. These guys are, professionals and type of guys that Jimmy Butler can play with or he thought he could, and that's what sold him on, the Heat. And in terms of, Philadelphia, well, they're left standing like a lot of teams, like I said, with free agency. Not an easy, teams like the Lakers, teams like, historically the Lakers get the pick of the litter. Shaquille leaves Orlando, leaves Orlando, Shaquille O'Neal, and he wants to play Bright Lights, Big City way back in the day. So he left a team that could win championships, you thought, in Orlando with Penny Hardaway and a great cast. They had gone to a finals. And he said, you know what, I want to play for the Lakers. The Lakers still have that this many years later. LeBron wanted to play out there. It wasn't like Magic Johnson did some great recruiting job. LeBron James wanted to play for the Lakers.
Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio. You mentioned you didn't think the Heat would be here, but now that they are, you give them a fair shot.
Yeah, I think they can win, actually. I'm picking them to win. Listen, they're on a great roll. They're 12-3, just like the Lakers. They have a lot of components that you like the way they're playing now. They're going to be fearless. They've got tough guys. They can play LeBron, I think, pretty well. They're not going to stop LeBron because LeBron knows that, he's in a no-win situation here. It's almost like he has to win. If he doesn't beat this team, they're heavy favorites, then people are going to look at this as a huge failure. If he wins, he was supposed to win. He needs that fourth title. He's 3-6 in the finals. But you just have to be so impressed with how the Heat dealt with Milwaukee, how the Heat then dealt, defensively especially, how they dealt with Boston. And then at the end of these games, they're passing the ball around, finding open shooters, going to the hot man, going against the weakness of the defense, while a team like Boston was supposed to be so great perimeter defensively, couldn't stop them. And then Miami's zone and all their different intricate defenses they whipped up against Boston, those guys were lost, totally clueless. Bad job by Brad Stevens, who's getting to be a little overrated here. He's been to some conference finals, but he can't get them back, can't get them home to the finals. So I like the way Miami's playing. I also like, obviously, LeBron. But I think, Bam Adebayo, his emergence against Anthony Davis, two big Kentucky big men, that's going to be a great matchup. Mike, I just think that Miami right now is on one of those roads. A lot of people are comparing them to the 2004 Pistons team. Didn't have any stars, really. Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, and Rasheed Wallace, and they took the Lakers down. Of course, the difference is that the Lakers were not a together team. Kobe and Shaq were at war with each other. Phil Jackson had basically one foot out the door. This Laker team, these guys get along. There's no doubt that LeBron wanted Anthony Davis. That's a big difference for LeBron this year and last year. But, this Miami team's got a lot going for it. A little bit of karma. And, they're playing with house money. I mean, nobody picked them. They're the fifth seed. So, yeah, I could see them winning.
Should be fun. Starts tomorrow night right here on 97.3 ESPN. Mitch Lawrence with us here. Sixers have Ty Lue in today. This story's bizarre. I mean, it was Ty Lue. Then all of a sudden it was Mike D'Antoni. It's his job if he wants it. And now you got Doc Rivers' name in the mix. So, number one, who's the best fit for Philly?
Good question. It's amazing. Doc Rivers, who, you saw the collapse, the Clippers. I mean, you couldn't believe Kawhi Leonard, but it did happen again. Historically, this is what happens to the Clippers all the time. Doc Rivers does a job in the regular season for them. Could he? The big thing is working with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid to make that thing finally work. Who do I think would do the best job? That's to me what they have to look at first and foremost. Which of these guys, which of these coaching candidates could do the best job with these three? I don't know about Mike D'Antoni in terms of that. I mean, Mike's pretty non-confrontational when it comes to locker rooms and stuff. Doc obviously did not do a good job down the stretch of that series. He was awful. They were awful. Ty Lue, who knows? He's dealt with LeBron James before. So I don't know. I tend to say, Doc Rivers might not be a bad fit. I thought, Mike's got a lot of selling points. D'Antoni, in terms of when you're working with a point guard, and now it's going to be, let's say, Ben Simmons, right? There's nobody better in the business. Ask James Harden, or the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands. The only problem is Mike tends to like guys who shoot, and Ben Simmons doesn't do that. So right now, I'd probably stack him up Doc first. And by the way, I think it was this show a couple of years ago where I dropped a kind of a hint that the Sixers were looking at a big-name coach who was under contract. That happened to be Doc Rivers at the time. I can reveal that now. but the Sixers, I know, were sniffing around a couple of years ago before Doc, I guess, got an extension. So, Doc's one of these guys who, despite his playoff failures, and he has three of the worst playoff, setbacks you could have, being up 3-1, blowing those leads as teams. That's 3 of the 13 in the history of the league. That's on his resume. Despite that, though, people still look at him as, the guy's good in the locker room with his guys. He's a leader, and on and on. So I'd probably rank Doc right now 1. But does he want to coach the Sixers? Does he want to go into TV? I mean, Doc was tremendous on TV. He might want to take a year off. The one thing Mike, is that every year there's going to be good coaching openings. There are going to be bad coaching openings. Who knows what happens next year? There might be a great coaching opening for him. So you just don't know. But I'd probably say, here's the thing, too. Ty Lue, for weeks and weeks and weeks, it was like Ty Lue's going to Philly or Ty Lue's going here. Maybe Ty Lue doesn't go anywhere. Maybe Ty Lue stays with the Clippers.
Right. Yeah, and I guess those three names seem to be the most prominent three, but is there a different is it the Sixers, are they better off without one of these retread guys? Are they better off getting somebody who's a little off the grid?
Well, and who are you talking about? I mean, I don't know who's exactly off the grid.
I don't either. I mean, the kid, the assistant that they have here that came from the Spurs, and everybody else seems to be interviewing. Maybe you just do it.
Udoka?
Yeah, whether you just do what the Raptors did and just hand it over to your assistant.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's I don't know what Elton Brand and Josh Harris and those guys are thinking in terms of that. Are they still going to hire someone above Elton Brand?
Right. This whole story's a mess over there. Brand's saying that he gets the decisions, but I mean, it seems like ownership is in everything here.
Well, the deal is, if you're going to hire somebody above Elton Brand, I would do that first, and then that person has to be involved in the coaching. It doesn't make any sense to have Elton hire the coach, and then you have somebody come over Elton. That to me doesn't make any sense. So we'll see how they do. There are 6 coaching openings still. All over the place, Oklahoma City, Indiana. The Pelicans still need a coach. There's some good guys out there. I just don't know. I was trying to think today of a coach who, Steve Ballmer, who can afford anybody. Maybe he goes off the grid, out of the box, whatever, for the Clippers. But it seems like that's a 2-horse race between Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy. And who knows? There could be more guys involved. But right now it looks like a two-man race. And it looks like, maybe Ty Lue didn't do anything with any of these teams he's been rumored for, including Philadelphia, because he knew something was up with Doc Rivers. You never know.
Yep, and I know, as you mentioned New Orleans, it feels like they're so off the radar. You would think that there would be a lot more buzz about that job with Zion down there. There's no buzz about that place. Yeah,
there really isn't. It's amazing. There's no buzz. I guess the question is for coaching candidates, you have to look at Zion and you have to look at, durability and what's his body going to be like. Is he going to be in shape, conditioning, et cetera, load management? You do have some young talent. I thought Kenny Atkinson, who did a good job in Brooklyn developing some younger guys, might be a leader there, but you don't even hear his name. There's still, at this late date, we're in the finals, right? There's still 6 openings, I think, around the league, and there's some pretty Philly job. And let's remember, Houston's got a very interesting job because you get James Harden and Russell Westbrook, which could be, that's a job a lot of people would say, well, where are you going to go with those guys? Mike D'Antoni got them as far as they could go. Still, if you put those 2 guys on the floor, you're going to win a lot of games in the regular season. It's the playoffs you always worry about.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Of the NBA job openings, a lot of them have very intriguing pieces. Philly's obviously got Embiid and Simmons. You got Oladipo in Indiana. Possibly you got Harden down there. You got Zion. The one team that didn't have the most attractive was the Bulls, and they filled theirs already.
Yep. Yeah, Billy Donovan. And, he did a good job in Oklahoma City this year. I think Indiana's looking at Dave Yeager, who was in Philadelphia. I know that they talked to Dave Yeager, who was obviously Memphis, Sacramento. Indiana's had him in a couple times. He's kind of got that Thibodeau reputation where he rubs people in the front office the wrong way.
Yeah.
Happened in Memphis, happened in Sacramento, but he's a real good coach. He's an under-the-radar type of guy. Nobody talks about him, but Dave Yeager's pretty good. I know Philly talked to him. But Indiana, apparently, he might be a leader there. He might be a surprise. The one guy I threw out a couple of weeks ago, and I know I was told it's a bunch of nonsense, but Sam Presti of Oklahoma City is always a guy who's very secretive about what he does, and he's made a million great trades. I mean, the Paul George trade is like a fleecing now when you look at all the assets he got for Paul George, who was terrible in the games against Denver at the end. And I know that Sam has always been intrigued by a guy who won a national championship, NCAA level, a couple of years ago, who actually has ties to Oklahoma City and is tight with Kevin Durant. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Kevin Ollie.
Yes, there you go.
Kevin Ollie. And Kevin Ollie, LeBron James loves him. Kevin Durant loves him. I mean, and this is guy's been, you talk about a guy off the grid. Have you heard anything about Kevin Ollie in the last couple of years?
No, it's random, though. We get a couple of texts here and there, people asking about him there, for here because he played for the Sixers for a couple coffees.
Yes, and the people think highly of him. I don't know what the backstory is in terms of why he's not getting looks. I know he had he went through a lawsuit involving at UConn or whatever. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Presti stepped up and looked at him, gave him a lot of consideration. So it's fascinating what's going on, but it seems like, somebody's got to make a move because. But the thing about, when the Clippers did the deal with Doc yesterday, and I believe he was, they could call it a party in the ways, they didn't want him back because, things just fell apart so badly under his reign. Then you knew that all of a sudden he was going to be right at the top of the list of places like Houston, even Philadelphia, where Mike D'Antoni is supposed to get that job. Because people, despite Doc's problems in the playoffs, people still look at him and how he can work with young guys, how he can work with stars. He had stars in Boston, and they won a title. And that still goes a lot way in people's minds. The collapses are one thing, but they always look at what is he going to bring to the table. And in Philadelphia, they got to get Embiid and Simmons on the same page and rolling here finally. Doc might not be a bad guy, but like it goes back to what I said before. Who says he wants the job?
Real quick, Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio. What does next season look like?
Well, I hope all these teams can play home games in their arenas. Probably be without fans and probably start in January. The playoffs, we're going to be wondering if Tyler Hero can make shots in Milwaukee and all these other. If Jamal Murray can actually go into Utah and score 50 points rather than a road game at Utah in a bubble. Who knows? Look, it's like predicting what's going to happen with the pandemic. We're all expecting a second wave to hit. It's supposed to be coming now shortly in the fall, your area and my area. So that's the big unknown. Hope we can get back to more normalcy, but, I can't. I just have no way of telling.
Any chance it's an Orlando bubble season?
Oh, boy. Wow. I can't rule it out, but Adam Silver thinks, his goal, like he said, is play 82 games. But if you start in January, I don't know if you can play 82 games. You might have to play 66 games.
Right, exactly.
Like a lockout season. So we'll see. But there will be basketball. It's just a question of how many games and can these teams play at home? And maybe you're going to have to play in front of, no fans like we're seeing across the spectrum here in these different sports. I'm watching the Astros right now in Minnesota, and the other game, Chicago, and the A's are no fans, right?
Nope, nowhere. No fans, no place right now. All right, Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio, and, of course, the NBA Finals starts tomorrow night. You can hear them all right here on 97.3 ESPN. Mitch, always a pleasure, pal.
Mike, fantastic. Thanks for having me on, pal. See ya.
As always, Mitch Lawrence, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.